Hey, what's up guys? As you know, Hunter x Hunter is an incredible series with a memorable cast of characters and a story that is sure to impact you in some way or another. I remember very well watching the anime adaptation of Hunter x Hunter back in 2014, and since then I've been a massive fan of the series. That said, in today's video I'm going to rank what I think are the best fights in Hunter x Hunter. This series, when compared to other shonen, isn't flooded with fights at every step of the way, but the fights that it does have are, in my opinion, some of the absolute best in the genre. And I need to make clear that this ranking encompasses my subjective opinion. So you are more than welcome to leave your own ranking and opinion in the comments down below. So without wasting any more time, let's get to it. Starting off at number 10, we have Hisoka vs Goto. This is pretty much the only fight of much note in the election arc, and I'll admit this fight is kind of a guilty pleasure of mine. There is nothing particularly amazing about it, but I still find it very entertaining nonetheless. Partially because I never in a million years thought that Goto of all people would go out and fight Hisoka. The fight itself is short but enjoyable, it doesn't outstay its welcome, and it grabs your attention throughout. Admittedly, when this bout started, I didn't think Goto stood much of a chance, but for a while Goto did rather well against Hisoka. He started by throwing his coins, and for the most part things seemed like they were going his way. But Hisoka's power of rubber and gum started kicking in, and well, you know the rest. Goodbye Goto, you will be missed. At number 9, we have Phaeton vs Zazan. This is one of the most unexpected fights to have happened in Hunter x Hunter, but I'm very glad that we had it. Having the Phantom Troop members fighting the ants all of a sudden was a welcome surprise, and we got a couple of good fights and moments out of it. Such as Bonulev versus this fish ant thing, and seeing Shinnok turning into a Super Saiyan lookalike was also a lot of fun. However, the best out of all of them for me was definitely Phaeton vs Zazan. This is a fun and fast-paced fight where both combatants showcase their own individual strengths very well. Personally, I always love the scene where Phaeton literally shoots Zazan in the face, never gets old for me, and in general it's just fun seeing Phaeton go wild. As a squadron leader, Zazan also proved to be quite strong, managing to put up a very good fight and even injure Phaeton. However, this was a big mistake as Phaeton got really mad and proceeded to spawn a literal mini-sun, sending Zazan back to the Shadow Realm. But yeah, overall it's a fun fight with a great ending to it. At number 8, we have the dodgeball match. Now, I know what you're probably thinking, hey wait a minute, this isn't actually a fight, and you would be kind of right. But the thing is, this dodgeball match works very well as an intense action scene. Better than most fights actually. It's a glorious back and forward that successfully puts you at the edge of your seat. I kid you not, I felt a lot more engaged watching this dodgeball match than I did with other fights and even with a lot of other sports anime, and that's saying something. It's legitimately enthralling seeing Gon trying his best to defeat Raisin in his own turf, and the usage of Nen incorporated into the game makes it really fun and intense. And besides, even though it's technically not a fight, this dodgeball match did get quite violent sometimes, so it has that going for it as well. Another good thing about this dodgeball match is Razor. He is quite the imposing figure and he worked perfectly as this game's antagonist. He was strong, capable, and his Nen ability suited this game very much, making it a lot more enjoyable overall. He also put Gon and his team through the ringer, and that deserves a lot of respect in and of itself. Lastly, Gareno showed everyone why he's one of the top Nen users of all time, so this match gets a few points for that too. Next up at number 7, we have Uvogin vs the Shadow Beasts. This fight is fantastic, and it's also often forgotten. Rarely do I ever see people talk about it, and that kinda sucks cause this fight really is awesome. It successfully showed Uvogin's ruthlessness and sheer strength in unique and original ways, proving that Uvo's skill set is much more than just strong punches. The Shadow Beasts themselves weren't powerhouses, but they had unique abilities that made them dangerous, especially in a group. As the fight starts, Uvogin is struck by poison and things seem to be going south for him, until this happens. Shocked? Well, so was I. I mean, to be fair, the man himself said this, and I quote, "Everything from the neck up is all I need to defeat you," and oh boy, he wasn't kidding. In essence, Uvogin took care of the Shadow Beasts by biting someone to death, killing someone by spitting a piece of a skull at them, and also killing the hairy dude by screaming really loud. Honestly, this fight is worth seeing just for the creative ways in which Uvo deals with his problems. So yeah, this fight is great, hopefully it gets more attention. And at number 6 is Chrollo vs the Zoldyx. I can't deny, when I first saw this fight happening, I was hyped beyond belief. I've always enjoyed fights between antagonists and side characters. Fights that don't involve protagonists usually have a different feel to them, and you never really know what's going to happen. They tend to be more unpredictable, and it usually makes the story less biased towards one of the fighters. And look, witnessing Chrollo fight not only Zeno but also Silver Zoldyck pretty much guaranteed for me that this fight would be one of the best in the series, and it was. The fight itself is intense and well choreographed, and it's quite impressive seeing Chrollo hold his own against two incredibly dangerous Zoldicks. All of the individuals in this fight are aware of each other's skill level and how deadly they are, which makes every interaction and strike feel impactful and dangerous. I guess that's what happens when you pair up a mass-murdering terrorist ninja genius against two highly skilled and experienced assassins who literally do this for a living. The only reason that this fight isn't a little higher up on the list for me is because I find the ending a bit too anticlimactic and abrupt, but it's not that big of a deal. Otherwise, it's a great fight. Starting out the top 5, we have Gon and Pitou. Now, I have to admit, this fight was a bit hard for me to rank, and I think you might know why. It's a fight that I personally like very much, and it's one of my favorite moments in all of Hunter x Hunter. A fight worth seeing, no doubt. However, I get it. I know some people consider Gon vs Pitou more of a straight-up homicide or slaughter than an actual fight, but it's still a fight. It is. Kind of. In a way, this fight's strength lies in its emotional weight and character exploration more than it does in the actual exchanging of blows. In the anime particularly, it's beautifully directed and showcases a somber turn for the series. It's brilliant and tragic in a way that has stayed for me for a very long time now. This is the fight that affected me the most emotionally, and that is always something that should be valued in a fight. Because somehow, to the surprise of many, fights also tell stories. Stories matter in a fight. They give weight and depth to them. You start caring about what happens far more due to that. And Gon vs Pitou is a brilliant example of it. So yeah, there is not a lot of back and forth in this fight, and Pitou gets blasted in pretty much record time, but it's still easily one of the most memorable and unforgettable moments of Hunter x Hunter, and for that alone it deserves its spot at number 5 for me. Number 4. Gon vs Hisoka. This is to many the first great fight of the series, and I personally tend to agree. It's a fight that puts you at the edge of your seat all the way through. It has excellent sequences, it's very well paced, and it's a prime example of how to put two characters of vastly different levels fighting each other and still making that fight feel engaging and intense. You see this fight entirely from Gon's perspective, which helps understanding just how much of a hurdle Hisoka really is. I mean, the difference between them is quite noticeable. Nonetheless, Gon comes up with a clever plan that eventually leads to him successfully landing a punch straight to Hisoka's handsome face, to the surprise of everyone. This led to Gon being able to return the number tag to Hisoka, proving just how much stronger he had gotten. Of course, after this, Hisoka proceeded to beat the living shit out of Gon, but still, well done, Gon. I also appreciate how, even though Gon is the main protagonist, Togashi just didn't give him the win by making him come up with some sort of convenient trick in order to beat Hisoka. No. Hisoka wins because his experience, strength, and nen usage is that much greater than Gon's by that point in the story. It's what makes sense, and overall I feel like Gon only gained more as a character by taking this defeat as a way to improve and find motivation to keep getting stronger. Lastly, this fight also has some iconic scenes such as this and this, but maybe we shouldn't talk about that. At number 3 we have Kurapika vs Uvogin. This fight has so much going for it, it's actually insane. First off, the backstory. Kurapika has as one of his objectives to bring down the Phantom Troop since they were the ones responsible for wiping out Kurapika's clan. This already makes this fight highly intense because we are literally witnessing a man going against one of the individuals responsible for that atrocity. This is important because, as I stated earlier in Gon vs Pitou, it matters a lot when a fight has a good story to accompany it, since it makes things far more interesting. In this case, you can feel Kurapika's rage and disdain for Uvogin in pretty much every single piece of dialogue between the two. It's a clash between a man who couldn't care less about those around him and one who has directly suffered for that. Another thing I love in this fight is how nen is used and how far it can go to reflect the necessities and personality of the user. Uvogin, for example, is an act first, talk later kind of guy, and his ability perfectly reflects that. He punches things really hard, and well, to be fair, it's pretty effective for him. On the other hand, Kurapika has a much more strategic and careful approach to combat. He conducts plans far more effectively and overall has a safer and smarter approach to fighting. However, this is not to say that Uvo is necessarily stupid in comparison. Despite his very direct way of dealing with his opponents, he is by no means portrayed as an idiot in this fight. He is a veteran Nen user and rightfully so starts understanding very early on that Kurapika was hiding something about how his abilities truly worked. It wasn't normal for Kurapika to be so capable at both manipulation, conjuration and enhancement, since that would in theory break the affinity rules of Nen. Therefore something had to be off. But before Vugin could figure it out, Kurapika had already put chain gel around Uvo's body in a way that would make a BDSM enthusiast feel jealous, making him incapable of using Nen and essentially sealing off his death sentence. The way in which Kurapika deals with Uvo is a good example of how far he is willing to go to avenge his clan, and this fight displays that perfectly. However, in a way I can't help but think that Kurapika's path for revenge is one that will ultimately bring him no closure, something that this fight seems to allude to as well. By the way, Kurapika literally brought a shovel to a fight. Huh, extra points for that too. And at number 2 we have Chrollo vs Hisoka. This is the most anticipated fight in Hunter x Hunter history. It had been brewing in the story for quite some time and we would tease that it would happen eventually, but it never did. The closest we came to it was back in the York New City arc, but Hisoka ended up getting cucked by Nenless Chrollo. So the fans waited for years, some of them even lost hope. The immense amount of hiatuses made a lot of people believe that this fight would never happen. However, out of nowhere in 2016, our Lord and Savior himself, Yoshihiro Togashi, decided to grace our lives with a long-awaited match between Hisoka vs Chrollo, and what a match it was. The amount of planning and thought that Togashi put into this match is truly impressive. It's a fight that displays very well the strengths and vices of both Hisoka and Chrollo and allows them to both shine when needed. And in my opinion, this fight lived up to the hype, or at least it did to me. However, this needs to be stated, this fight is admittedly a bit difficult and confusing at times to follow. Chrollo bombards Hisoka with so much information that I ended up feeling the after effects from it. It's a fight that you can't really grasp the full picture until you reread its chapters for a couple of times to make sure you really understand it, and this can be a bit tiring for some people. But personally, I love the complexity of this fight. I like how Hisoka felt like a cornered animal, who was trying his best to figure out how to counterattack and make his way through all of the dangers sent his way. Seeing this fight pretty much only from Hisoka's point of view also helps this fight feel a lot more intense, and it puts in perspective just how well Chrollo planned this out. So yeah, overall it's a pretty phenomenal fight. And you probably guessed it by now, I consider Netero vs Meruem to be the best fight in Hunter x Hunter. It is to me the fight that is closest to perfection. It nails pretty much everything that I would want in a fight. Amazing choreography, stunning visuals, great story, fantastic character development, unforgettable action scenes, and an overall impact that is set to stay with me for a very long time. There is not a single thing that I could ever possibly dislike about this fight, and I truly think that when it comes to fights, this is Togashi's magnum opus. And once again, I gotta give a shout out to the anime adaptation. It does a brilliant job elevating this fight to an even higher standard. I kid you not, the animation throughout this fight is at times movie tier quality. I have no idea how Madhouse pulled this magic trick off, but I'm very happy that they did, because if there was a fight that deserved it, it definitely was this one. So yeah, that pretty much wraps this video up. I hope whoever saw this video that this was at the very least a little bit enjoyable, and share your opinions and rankings down below if you want to, and I'll see you next time.